It's your Happy Healer lover. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Looks like we are good to go. I am your Happy Healer lover. Today's date is Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. We are on the mission of AmericanMantics, showing folks love far and wide, thinking about here and thinking about there, because people matter from here to there and all in between. God bless you and welcome. This is AmericanMantics. I am your Happy Healer lover. We are getting ready to have a great program this evening. I don't know about you, but I had a good day today. Every day is a great day. It's a grand day. It's a gift from our Creator. And I'm always focused on the good that I can do. I'm focused on the people that I can change. And I'm focused on the difference I can make. And part of that for me, well, all of it essentially, for me is an intellectual journey more than anything. It's understanding our role, how to survive. Everything you see me doing here and now is about exactly that. Because not only can we do the things that are important to us from our homes, but I've worked a way to continue doing what's important to me, which is doing what I can for you from everywhere I go. So what's great about this is I'm looking forward into the future, and I'm looking at going to different places, and when that process gets started, which it most certainly will, we'll be going and visiting all over the country and capable of bringing this show, which is really in a consistent way. This is the first time back on the air. Remember, back in Happy Force 1, we did a number of programs, but not this consistently. And so you see what we have going, and that it's a great effort, meaning we haven't never let you down and not done what is important for you, even though there are challenges. And so that's what living in an intellectual way for me means. It means essentially that I can move things around to my benefit. I can make my life work despite the challenges. That's what the objective is when working for each other. For me, your Happy Healer lover, I have to be able to survive from Mini Force 1 using electricity from the sun, using my ingenuity, and all of that is a gift from God. All of that is your mind. All of that is brilliance. And it goes so much deeper than that when working for our Creator. It's realizing we have to change when working for each other. It is working for our Creator. And so when I change for you. And changing for you is exactly what I expect you to do when it comes for your brothers and for me. And the reason why I say this, and I think that it's important for each one of us to expect that, is because when you take a look at the world we're in now, this isn't a world that we have by itself. Everybody is here, everybody plays a role in the world that emerges. And it's just like the way you treat your family and your friends with love and with an honest love that accepts the world around you and works the best you can to provide out of that world a survival first, and then you want to advance, right? You want to make your life better. That's what love does. And don't you know, on a grand scale, it's doing the exact same thing. So if you become less budgeable then for change, how can we have that beautiful thing, right? That's what AmericanMantics is. So it's so important to understand what exactly AmericanMantics is. That's so incredibly helpful. I just heard my speaker go out, and once I get into that phase of the show, I got to make sure that works. So stand by just one moment. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, so we have to make those changes that are rooted and central to the cause of humanity. Think about what the goal is here at AmericanMantics. It's to bring together two ideologies that don't want to agree with each other, but that are in the same pot. They've essentially made this red and hot, put them on its separate sides, and they're fighting, and they're mixing, and they're becoming less energetic in their own right. They're becoming less capable. They're no longer what they used to be, and that's not good. We have to change our trajectory to one instead of death and hell and pain and depression and wretched misery. We have to change that to love and truth and happy times for Americans, their families, and for generations to come. And the only way that's going to happen is if we're flexible for change. We have to be. My fellow friends and lovers, we have to be. We have to be so flexible for change. And if we can change and we can show one another that you matter enough for me to change, that you, in my life, I care enough for you that I'll change my world so that you can survive, so that you can thrive, and that in place you do the same for me. That's what a family does. That's how a family is able to thrive forward. That's what human value recognized looks like. That's what AmericanMantics is. It's recognizing human value. Don't you know? We all have so much human value and so much that we can give. We just have to be able to be allowed in our own right, in our own mind, to believe that that is the way to go, that that's what we get something out of. We have been so programmed that the only way to go and the only way to get something out of anything in life is to look at everything like business. And business like-minded like individuals. And I remember, because I learned to become a business mind myself at a very young age. I knew what it's like, put your nose to the grindstone, stay focused on the policy. I've gotten into this many times with you, and we've talked about Cheryl. I have a show that's dedicated to business where I have people listen and understand about what exactly is happening there, and it comes from my history and understanding and contemplating and making business happen and become successful. And they know that, and I know that. And that's why we do that for each other. This business is a way that we're capable of empowering ourselves, and we learned about it. And it's not really even for each other, it's just the expectation. I know what it is. And I preach to my business folks too. I preach to the folks on doing their investments when we do Moderna or any of these other investments we talk about, AMC even. It's all, for me, it's always out of love and pushing that forward and strengthening that and making that front and center and showing people that you could be both courageous, caring, and successful, and that you can build yourself up. Because the thing about AmericanMantics is not making you weaker, it's making you stronger. It's giving you more capability, and it's opening your mind. And that's the beautiful thing, because before we didn't focus so much on finance. And I said, one of the things I'm going to include in this, because it is the big evil, and by the way, it also is the thing that takes on the value of the human essence, is the financial thing. First, I'm going to show people you can make money without selling your soul. You can actually understand that you could be successful. But aside from that, you have to realize what the market is, and as you benefit from it, realize that it could be better and that people don't have to lose. And when you see people doing well on the market, what you see are bunches of people all agreeing that going forward progress is the right thing, that the company they're behind is building and generating great new human ingenuity and processes and making life better, and that is what they want. And when that's happening, stocks always just go up, right? And that the valuation of that company continuously rises. Over time, eventually you have these what are called short sellers, and they come in and they start pouncing in from the top down. They want to break it down. And now the way these guys make money is separate from everybody else. It's not by seeing additional processes occurring. It's not by seeing advancement and growth. It's not by seeing companies extend here and extend there. It's not by seeing problems solved. It's not by seeing innovation or any of that stuff. What short sellers make their money on is by the fire and the smoke. They make their money through the destruction. And by breaking down a company, by making it less capable, by making it sluggish and unable to meet its debts and to fall out of, existence. And what this short seller does is pound it down until the point of exhaustion. And if it can, in the continuation and process and effort of making money, continue to break it down even past beyond the measure of what they think is fair, they'll continue doing it if they can, if they're capable. In other words, they'll drive that knife straight into the heart of that company and bring it to zero if they can, because that's how they make their money. You see how some of these market mechanisms are not necessarily working for you? Do you see how some of these market mechanisms are indeed designed to cannibalize itself? And the best we could ever hope for is to sometimes cannibalize the cannibals. That's it. By having a short squeeze or something like that. They don't belong in the market, these cannibals. They are hurting more than they are helping. There is not enough liquidity that they can offer that can make up for that which they destroy. And that's your Happy Healer lovers look on the market. And so people learn that when they watch me. They realize we have a strong gauge on what the heck is going on out there, and we are sharing it with people who matter and long for better value, but yet live in the moment. You cannot die in this moment just because you want to survive in a better moment and you want things to become better. When we talk about AmericanMantics, we're not talking about putting ties on your wrists. We're talking about empowering you, making you stronger mentally, physically, and every other which way, being strong and capable of taking on this life no matter what happens, and being empowered and realizing what's happening and having a vision for being able to, again, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, to be able to change your life. You have to be able to change things that are not helping us get to that promised land. And remember, Greedhell of and for and by itself is not taking us to the promised land. It has no interest in helping humanity out. It, by all definitions, is the death force. It wants to see humanity perish. So that's why I call it the devil. Just that it's fitting for something that wants to see people perish so insanely. And I've never seen a force more insanely dead set on human perish than Greedhell. It just wants death everywhere it goes. So we have to be cognizant of that truth, and together, then we can change it. We can be empowered to know how to change it. We can know what we can do to lift ourselves up in the process, and to become stronger and understand the world around us and to dissect it. That's what I do every single day. I'm learning and studying and meditating on what works, what doesn't work, but not to throw away what doesn't work. Everything is a tool for later, for something else to use in a way that helps build up our future of lovers. Lovers have tools. Lovers have the ways and means process. When you need a problem fixed, you don't call those greedy bastards because they don't have the care sufficient enough to know the difference on the things that make a change. So this is all about change. And by the way, what do people need when problems occur but yet a new way, a better way? And so that's when lovers are called in. That's when those who are brilliant enough to know the difference, that it's not selfishness you put first. When you see smart people, are they living a life of selfishness? That is not the smartest thing to put first. When people are reduced to having to do selfishness, often it's because those of us who are, we have an entire array of people we are not appreciating. Everybody plays a role in making a life great, life amazing, and life growth. And everybody has a talent and a gift and a skill to share and love to share. And we're not using that. But if we was, then we would be able to, as we say, capitalize on all of our greater good by using the skills of other people to help solve the problems that we encounter. And these folks who are more intelligent, who are becoming scientists, who are smart, They know the difference between doing good work and bad work. They're not running after becoming billionaires. You don't see often super smart people doing that. They're going towards what makes a difference in life. And that by doing that, it may make you a billionaire after some time because you're solving a huge, huge problem. And that's where we get into making money is okay. But then it's a matter of how do you channel the good that you do and the energy that you're putting out. You, for one thing, you never forget where the true value is coming from, and it's coming from you. It's coming from your heart. It's not coming from the money. That was always a side factor. And that's why we have to and it takes money to invest in a future world. That's why I caution my brothers and sisters in the finance world to stop being so, dead set against the Federal Reserve. It's just that the Federal Reserve right now is controlled by, the Greedhell version of worlds. And we need the love version that's not willing to cannibalize itself, like what we talked about a moment ago. We need the one that cares about us all. We don't need short sellers in our very lives killing us. And that's basically the analogy that we're offering today. How the market works and how it works to sometimes build up life. It destroys life to do it. Instead of becoming a better builder, it becomes a more sufficient destroyer. And that's what Greedhell is doing. So we have to remove the perversion, not remove the systems. The systems to me are just fine. And so people sometimes they don't understand that. This is about improving systems, yes, and making things better. And we have a million ways to do that. And going much further than things go now because we'll have further and greater capability with people who are ready to work and play their part in humanity. Right now, there's no use for them. The job right now is not to serve the people's happiness or care or worth or value or any of that. All it is to basically say, here you go, you're on your own. And we won't offer you too much of a hand up, but if we do, it'll be more like a pinky up. And should you fail, that's on you. We'll cremate your body. This is the truth. This is how we live. We'll cremate your body. But you know what? To us, this is an environment where you could thrive. Good luck. Go ahead, American. Good luck. In the meantime, you see people running across the border who are faced with the same prospects, the same deal that we just explained. And they say, come on in. We'll give you health care. We'll give you a way and means to provide a vibrant life. And guess what? From the comfort of your new homes, you can watch Americans die too on the streets. This is unbelievable. This is what a perversion to the system looks like. All this is about is chaos and trying to destroy America. So we have to take care of one another. And we have to show how to do that without allowing the perversion, without allowing the destruction. And that's what they do. What essentially in wars past, they would take innocent folks and parade them through the battlefield to the other side to create this chaos. So the other side has to make the moral decision between feeding those people or watching them die. This is how bad warfare gets. Don't you know? And that's all in the interest of power in Greedhell. That's how they do it. And don't you know that it is no different now? That these folks are being used as human shields running across that field, blocking the way of American progress, blocking the way for Americans who are desperate and on the street to be able to get help. That's what is happening, and folks are missing it. And these guys that are coming, they're coming because they see the welcome sign. It's completely perverted. It's a perversion because in your own home you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't allow strangers from faraway lands to show up into your doors while your own brothers are bleeding on the ground. Granted, you might not turn them away, but you're not going to offer them your brother's bed. And this is what they're doing. And so we have to stop that perversion. We have to realize that in order to fix these problems, we're going to have to do some changing of our own. We're going to have to recognize the old guard, the way we thought was the way to fix things, is not the right way. And that's going to leave us to death And as soon as we recognize that life is waiting for us just to become a little bit smarter, a little bit loving, and it's going to take over and show us the strength of that view. And it's going to show us the ability of that view. Because right now, we leave America very little room. Americans have to operate within the small, tiny little corridor of freedom that they call freedom. And if they act outside of it, they know that they're not free. See, a lot of them, walk around, they think they're free, but they know the difference. Because the moment they try to act outside of that tiny little corridor of freedom, they are immediately put back into line by somebody and for some reason. And it's all coming from Greedhell, don't you know? Greedhell controls your life in a million different ways, and you don't even know it exists in some cases. I think most of you realize that after having heard me speak, and I hope this is still good. This is yogurt. I had it sitting over here for about 3 hours, so. But it's soothing for the throat when you talk. I love you. You're my family. Time now is 7:26. And what is all of this? We're talking about a way forward. That's what it is this evening. We are talking about a way forward. We cannot allow these forces that are out to destroy us to win. That's what they're doing. They're winning, my friends. My fellow Americans, my fellow lovers. Don't you know that they're winning? And don't you know that their goal is to destroy us all? When you know those two things, you can immediately get on the good work to save our own lives. And don't let them continue doing it. America is fractured. We should be so much stronger than we currently are. Too many Americans, when they think about enemies these days, they think about their own kind. Too fast. And by the way, humanity in general are just they're God's children. And we are so capable of showing the life that we've made, the love that we represent, to be so much better than how we do and than how we are. And if we don't get to that, we're going to continue dying worthlessness and hell. Worthlessness. That's what you represent. There's always somebody that's more important than you. Remember that. And that's not the way to go. That's the way of Greedhell. That's taking away value. That's not recognizing that building up people matter the most. And that's how you get a way forward. That's what we're talking about. It's a way forward. It's love coming together even when it's not easy. It's doing it the way of Jesus even when it's not easy. It's getting smacked on one side of the face and saying, "Oh, brother, you know how strong I am and what I'm capable of. And indeed so strong that I'm going to turn the other cheek and advise you not to do that again because I'm not a fool. But also show you that I'm a lover because I'm not trying to hurt you. Here you struck me and I restrained. I showed you love. Now, of course, you might just be the devil, and that could be the first blow of a succession of blows designed to kill me. And at that point, we will turn into our taekwondo and take you the heck out very quick. That is exactly how lovers do it. They don't stand there to become a target. They're not the version of nice guys finishing last. That's not how AmericanMantics works. That's built upon love. It's a strong force that knows the difference between a friend and a foe. And the energies in this world are exactly that. But that love is the one that guides our ship. That together we each represent love to one another and recognize that when in our most desperate moments, it's the unity of mankind that built our world. And without that love and care and becoming better and not going the way of the Stone Age where we came out of, not going the way of the Dark Ages where we lost previous advancement, that we instead advance, and that history and humanity has shown us through time that not advancing is dying, And America stopped advancing the moment she stopped doing her best. And you can't do your best when you're at a war with self. And if you like this war with self, then good news. Both sides continue to offer it until we go right off a cliff. The left and the right. Both sides continue to offer death until we die. How wonderful! No, we don't accept it. That's what the plan of AmericanMantics is. And so you have to recognize that and be prepared to do your part to help see it thrive. Now, many of my friends, you have seen me here staying consistent on this message for not just a month or a week, but for years. And you'll see it for years to come. I wonder how long you can keep denying the truth and not doing your part. I wonder how long that is for you. I knew I would be able to say that eventually. How much effort we put into doing the right things. How long will it take to get our act together? It's so important we hold each other accountable to the love that we have and for the world that we want. This is what we're fighting for. Nothing else matters if we can't have the better, loving world for our people, for our children, and for ourselves. And so we're just going to have to be for real about that and think about, in the end, what is this show about? A way forward. A way forward. Don't ever lose focus that this is about a way forward. And if we don't figure out and navigate our way forward in this darkness, in this hell, then we're never going to get to the light. They're intending to take us off a cliff. No matter how much I know, no matter how much I've seen or predicted that outcome, I am not interested in seeing it actually materialize. Being right about the way we're headed is not so that we can prove we are right. It's so that we can change that hell and destiny we don't want to experience. I don't want to be right about this hell that's fast approaching. I want to change the trajectory. We want, ultimately, a way forward. And not just a way forward. What is a stranded passenger from a downed plane in the middle of nowhere who finds a way forward only to end up in another ravine, lost again? What they need at that point is still a way forward. We can't continue to do things that don't offer the solution to Greedhell, because Greedhell will continue to take in ways that we cannot afford, and that the only way we can pay for those debts are with our lives. And we can't have it. So what do we honestly need? A way forward. Now listen. A way forward is only a way forward if it's been fully conceived in the mind and realistic in the world and successful in capturing humanity's abilities, appreciating our progress from a place of happiness and prosperity. We know that certain factors, it's a man-made reality, are broken and they need fixing. For one, greed has run so rampant, it's considered to be the best there is by people who know no better, and it's all lies. We need to show the way forward if we expect others to follow. I'm calling out both parties for not realizing the way forward that doesn't involve a civil war. This left-right paradigm is serving someone, but it's not normal people like us. It's not you and I. And yes, you have a lot to gain or lose in America, learning how to navigate through this crisis and to emerge as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It will become the next dictatorial power instead, which is owed to Russia for China for helping to see to our dictatorship, we'll have to say. We'll ruin America if we don't wake up. Do you think that happens to America and others just get to just sit there and criticize these dictatorships? I know not. These fools will make us die. And I've been making this my primary goal for years, and yet you haven't even heard of your Happy Healer in some cases. And yet I know what to do. I feel this in my bones. I know about more of what to do than I even care to do that job. Yet I have lots of care too, and I am a lover. I care. That's what we do. Let's step up in almost every conceivable way and not allow our freedoms to be stolen by a select few groups of humans around the world lusting for greed. Instead, please, let's realize we're only hope. What we have learned effectively through COVID and through the many lessons, it's this: we are not being protected. There's no extra levels of security seeing to our safety. Greed is only interested in power and money, and not you. That is it. We know this. And so, folks, to know this and then not to do something about it, it shouldn't shock us when we lose everything that we hold dear, including that freedom to love. It's replaced with a military dictatorship, folks, dictated by Moscow's orders and defined by taking how much they could take from our vaults. And it will be the thing that takes everything. And yet, we have God that takes away that greedy bastard breeding that corruption, taking over the United States the best it can, and destroying our ideology and pressing our triggers and building our essence up in our money instead of our self-worth. This is exactly rooting our danger into the people themselves. It's shameful times in America, and it's sickening the American spirit, and it's not winning with love. And I am talking to you. And yes, you know that. I talk out of love, and I'm very clear. I've made a way for us to change to a system of love and to have a sane and compelling argument based on our collective experiences that we share, and we must be clear about the facts to do any of that. The only way to be forward and to be honest in that forward progress is to do the collective problems through love, the way God showed us. But when we do that, all of our problems are solved. And through greed, we can only solve our own problems and the hell with all others, and yet we usually don't solve our own either. So greed is the devil for sure. There is no question about this. Let's be clear about that. God needs us to do love and to make this world His true love. If we continue to act as though we're so incapable, yet with a greedy heart really is, no matter how smart my friends are that practice devil worshipping or greed, it's the same thing. They all insist that their money is their essence. They don't even know the difference. They get offended. They're triggered. And all the sides of life that always point back to that which we need each other. That's what it points to. And it makes me sad when people know the truth and they accept it and still do nothing. Why is that? Why they say it's on God and not on them. God will bring the changes. They can do greed up until then. That moment is what they say. Unbelievable. And yet we all know that God gave us the tools we need to bring in heaven on earth, and it's called love. And yes, love is that great. And now you know what you're robbing from people when you skip the line and go mad with greed and hell. Insanity looms large in a greedy heart. They need love. And I feel bad for people stuck in this place where they think that it's okay to do greed when they really know that that's the devil, and they still try to protect it. Yet, they're also the ones drinking the Kool-Aid and talking in a way that is sure to be our undoing, put us directly into a civil war, and they will all be with their money, which has no value, and their retarded look on their face of desperation when it finally hits them, even though it's what justice looks like. If they continue waiting for God while they're waiting, and all they're waiting for is that wretched misery. And God is giving us the tools to do it ourselves. Love is that tool, and instead of using love and making and seeing that ample forth that will correct the errors in judgment we have, we let greed infect our thinking. That's why when I don't do that, I am so qualified in that way particularly to lead our country in a way forward. God is waiting. The devil is waiting for us as well. And why are we helping evil by doing greed? Let's take care of our people and change this world and find a better way forward. Get rid of that death. I'm tired of seeing the people I love die. And that this Greedhell is the reasons for a hateful, racist, bigoted populace in some cases, as well as a more greedy, awful, greed infecting humanity and making this horrible outcome is because of that greed. And God's system of love doesn't allow for that. It fixes people from the inside. We've tried greed, folks. It's not working. And God, life is an evolution. We know this from God's truth. He has written in the fundamental nature of this creation. We have no excuses to not do this. We can all get this truth, even non-believers. It's all based on facts. They were likely ran away from religions that were false in nature because of God's truth written in reality. This is just remembering we all owe it to the truth, is being honest. Never forget that we can learn from these greedy bastards like Neil Paulson. And you know, I speak truth. We know the truth. And yet some of us work our tail off while others are just lazy. Each day, they sit in one spot all day and they give their greedy king their time, but out of greed, and they're not working for love, and that they only care about each other, and they want to, move their vast armies of greed. That's what they're about. And that's what works in Greedhell. And you can't accept a world that's not feeding and taking care of the forces that take care of us all, and that is one another. And that's when something truly threatening happens to all of us, and that's where it affects our collective. And we have to do better. They freeze assets in these times, and the money's gone if you think about it, because it's all fake to start with. Why would you put your faith in such a fake lie when instead you could do a real truth? When they do that, hell, they're bringing the value down of this world. That's what we talked about. Remember the short sellers? Manipulating their way to bettering themselves while making our lives worse, making us their slaves. Don't you know it has a purpose? That's what that truth tells us. It's not a materialistic goal we have in mind, folks. This is a wretched misery avoidance goal. This is a happy healer lover goal. This is instilling value in self, that the plan of love that God wrote on our hearts, and that the truth that love solves, and the truth of what we must do to solve that truth, written all over God's creation. The honest broker of truth in each of us tells us that much. And I speak to him every time, and he comes with me. Greed says one thing, and this guy in you says the truth. I know it. And so doing that's what's making me the most powerful speaker I've been. I speak with clarity and vision and experience and a faith that believes in miracles rendered every day in this lifetime. But when you do the devil's hate and greed, you always lose. Either way, in both large and small ways, you think you are a winner as you call a world of scarcity from the greed you practice, but you are one at least enough to survive in this world of scarcity you created. That greed is shameful. Playing the greed game and spitting out and trading and raw living, of spreading the gospel of love and making yourself a living, loving gift of God's creation in action, making smiles, that's doing the good work. No excuses to do more greed, like my friends are so committed. They say even themselves we need a young lover in the White House that can build up value and not eat it down like short sellers. Short sellers are like how the devil does on life. And it says these folks can say, I can do my greed and crap on love. Please stop. You're killing our chances of healing and making an amazing life of creation on earth. God's plan, He may do away with. Remember, that day is coming soon, folks. And for you greedy who think you know how it all works and it all goes, remember, when the world changes in an instant and all that matters is the kind of knowledge God's love efforts, you put all your faith in greed and miss the facts of life, will showing you over and over again how you are the reason for all of our problems when you do that. And not one of those problems, all of them. That is greed sins. And yet, if you wait around for God to fix these issues, that's shameful because He gave you the love to do it. Stop lying to yourself, lovers of God. Greed, the devil. Because God needs you now. Get rid of that greed. Can't let the devil persist when we can let him go in just one swoop. So we can do this together. It's why God has sent me on this mission, that I won't stop. And you see that. I stick with it. For years we've been at this. Look at all the money that the greedy have spent on so many greedy things that only appeal to greedy people and greedy things and ways. And that is a truth that I'll never be a part of, because I'm a part of value. And I operate as a family and a brother to my family that I love so much, family of human beings. And I say to my family, don't leave me hanging. That's what we do to each other, and we're casting aside anything that looks remotely like a sacrifice and instead giving everything to the devil within. And I'm never going to stop calling that devil out. And it goes so much further. I provide a solution where one is allowing us to bring God's power into the picture and really get on to solving those issues. That's why we're so impotent to solve anything and to do anything to solve these problems in so many years. We all know it. It's the same old problems. And Trump moves faster than old politicians but he used like a direct kind of power of hate, right? Not a bad, he's not in a bad, I'm not saying bad, but he's doing his best to change in that way, using the ways of Greedhell. But now with your HappyHealer, we do similar. We cast aside the devil's greed who shows up every time, and we use God's truth and to show you, while we can't just summon God's loving power to our collective hell that we built. That's the point. You sold your souls to the devil when you do the devil's way. That's all it takes. But it's not forever. All we need to do is resurrect God into our lives with our state of free will, who really needs us in His own promise to us to invite him into this loving work, and we get to use and have God and have great fun in our lives to make that next step. And we need faith in God and collective love to make that happen. And yet to bring the devil, since this is his kingdom in hell and greed already, it's very easy to summon his very weak powers of greed. They are always there to rule all and do. But love, being the noble and way more powerful force of God Almighty, and he's the creator of this great world, and yet evil just steals from that force to keep itself going. That's the cunning nature of our deceiver. And while God's love was always present and his creation is all around us that speaks to us, it's our collective spirit that wins when it gets to loving is making so important that makes God's energy work instead of the devil's. So that's where determination and self-determination and the great test of our self-determination and whether we are savvy and bright enough to see these truths even when we're blinded by that greed, and that the answer is yes, and that is me. I see them so clear, and so do you when I tell them to you. I see them as clear as day, so true. And we need to act. This is the way. Love is the way. Love guides. It's abundance of happiness, and it's happiness and it's serving human needs. The devil's hate is what we already have currently. Cheaters, liars, and biased idiots who hate and know it all at the same time, but really know nothing. They always run from me, by the way. I'll debate publicly anyone, no matter who you are, who disagrees with God's loving plan. And typically, they'll never debate because they know I'm right. How can they debate the things that we stand for? Because for every fool who actually tries to debate brings the devil's mocking powers of laughter and greed with them, despite trying to embarrass me and mock my vision out of the room altogether, they instead magnify my vision and themselves become and look so small for having used lies and greed to win love and mocking with hate and still losing anyway, and all to love from your happy healer lover, and that's the power from your God's honest truth. It's so powerful and strong that the truth speaks for itself. That's our gift, folks. God is great. Let us take that gift and make our experiences worthy of our creation. And stop wasting the love of God's gift of life. I am so offended by that. You've never had a right to be offended, because this is what you are taking from all of us when you lie. The only thing you should be doing is figuring out how to stop taking from so many. And I see God in that way, and I know He's with us in that way, and I get that truth, and He's with all of us. She perhaps is. God bless you all. We need that extra blessing. We need a way forward that's going to take us from this hell and make things better and show us a way that doesn't include death for people that we love. We need a way that's going to show us hope and that's going to really build the future world of abundance that we know we must build if we were to get to a type 1 civilization, which is the only realistic long-term answer for the survival of our species. And yet we are doing just like the Romans did when the barbarians took over and caused the age of the dark times. And what we want are the age of the light times to come over that which is dark and to win and to banish it from the kingdom of God. That light force, that brightness in everybody's lives to translate, and only love does that. And so we are out to build that better world through love And we don't want laziness and hell and greed. And the only action that moves and persists in this world is the action that dollars pay for, and that everybody else is resting because soon it'll be their turn to hunt for dollars. We have to have some other reason that guides our fuel, mission, and cause to a greater effect other than just working for the cause of greed itself. That is not enough for people, and that's why we're finding people broken and depressed. And it's not a future worth living in, and it all goes back down to the truth we talk about. And people have so precious, just like their mommies and daddies knew. They're so special, and they have real reason to persist life, and they have that desire to live. And each and every person has that value, that sacred value. And every person deserves a life worth living. Folks, we'll see you right back here on what's today? Wednesday, August 11th. We'll see you on Friday, August 13th at 7 p.m.